श्रीराघवम् दशरथात्मजमप्रमेयम् सीतापतिम् रघुकुलान्मयरत्नदीपम् आजानुबाहुम् अरविन्ददलायताक्षम् रामम् निशाचर विनाशकरम् नमामि नमामि नमामि
Ramakatha Rasavahini. Chapter 16. Gloom over Ayodhya. Meanwhile, the ruler of the Nishadas, who was returning to his kingdom after accompanying Rama for some distance into the forest, saw Minister Sumantra sitting in his chariot on the bank of the Ganga, the horses having been tied to a shady tree. Sumantra was alone, weeping and wailing inconsolably. Guha himself couldn't control any longer the anguish he had restrained so long. "Rama!" he cried out and ran towards Sumantra. He embraced the old man and both sobbed aloud in agony, unable to put their grief into words. They stood under the tree together, but fell on the ground as if they were themselves trees felled by an axe. They lamented the fate of Sita, Rama and Lakshmana and poured abuse on Kaikeyi, who was the cause of the calamities. The horses stopped gazing and drinking water. Tears rolled from their eyes. Whenever they heard Sumantra and Guha utter the names of Sita, Rama or Lakshmana, they raised their heads aloft and peered into the distance, anxious to catch a glimpse of those whom they adored and loved with as much zeal as the two men in the agony of separation. Sumantra noted the grief that tormented the animals, and his anguish became even greater. Some hours passed in this heart-rending way. At last, Guha managed to recover a little. He mustered some courage, as needs someone must, and addressed Sumantra. "Oh, Minister, you are profoundly intelligent, steadfast in morality, and a person who has identified the reality behind all the passing show. Fate plays strange tricks, so one has to learn to put up with them. Rise, return to Ayodhya, convey the news to Kausalya and Sumitra, who are yearning to see you and listen to your account." He raised Sumantra forcibly from where he had fallen and seated him in the chariot. He brought the horses and yoked them to the central pole. Sumantra realized that Guha was correct. Moved by his spirit of blind courage, the old man signed to the horses to move forward. His body lost strength as a result of the anguish of separation from Rama, so however much he tried, he could not drive the chariot as of old. He rolled down inside the chariot and rose in his seat many times in a few minutes, and the horses, they too would not move. They were set on turning back, straining their necks to see the road behind. Sumantra cursed himself and his fate. Fie on me! May this horrid life of mine be ended. This body has to be burnt to ash someday. Far better if, instead of dying through some disease or some worldly calamity, it died as a result of unbreakable agony at separation from Rama. That would have made my life worthwhile. That would have made my fame everlasting. Earning that fame is enough compensation for all the ills of life. No, Sumantra, he said to himself. Had you good luck, you would have stuck to Rama. What bad luck haunts you? What else can you do than come away and be alive? What use it is to pine and blame yourself? Sumantra chided himself most mercilessly in this strain. He started a dialogue with himself again. With what face am I to present myself in Ayodhya? When the citizens ask me where Rama is, what can I answer? When they ask me, how could you come away leaving Rama in the jungle? What can I tell them? Won't I be overcome with shame and sorrow? Oh, my heart has become stone. Else, why hasn't it split into fragments at all that I have gone through? Sumantra was disgusted at his own meanness. He wrung his hands in despair. He decided that he couldn't enter the city during sunlight when people would be moving about. It would be less humiliating, he felt, to enter the city at night after everyone had gone to bed and was fast asleep. But soon his inner voice told him, What? Can the people of Ayodhya ever sleep? No, they can't. It's just my foolishness and ignorance that make me imagine they do. They would be awake, awaiting news of Rama's return, or at least any news about him. I can't escape the humiliation and shame whether I enter the city at night or during day. Well, for me, who did not deserve the grace of Rama, this ill fate is the proper meat. I better go through it and bear the burden of the blame. Sumantra wended his way slowly and haltingly, spending time in framing questions to himself and answering them. At last, he reached the bank of the Tamasa river. He decided to spend a few hours there, allowing the horses to gaze a bit and preparing himself for the entry into the city after nightfall, when the people will be safe in bed and not on the streets. Finally, the chariot rolled into the gate of the city and began to move through thoroughfares. Sumantra took extra care to ensure silence from wheel and hoof. The chariot moved at the pace of a snail. But who could silence the agony of the horses? They recognized the streets through which they had taken Rama and groaned aloud at their present fate, when their dear Rama was far, far away. The populace of the city heard this pathetic name. Their ears were set to hear this piteous cry. They told each other that Sumantra had returned with an empty chariot. They ran into the streets and stood pathetically on both sides to witness the sad spectacle. When he saw the crowds, Sumantra bent his head low. Seeing him in this pitiable posture, they guessed that Rama had not returned and swooned on the spot, falling wherever they stood. Many wept aloud. The residents of the palaces of the queens, when they heard the neighs of the grief-stricken steeds, sent maids in haste to ask why. They hurried in groups towards Sumantra and showered questions on him. He sat dejected and crestfallen, like a mute person unable to find words to answer them. He sat unmoved like a broken pillar, as if he was deaf and could not hear what they were so earnestly asking him. From his behavior, the maids inferred that Rama had rejected all importunities to return. They lamented, "Oh, minister, did you leave Sita in the terror-stricken forest and came back alone?" and broke into a sudden, sharp wail. One maid was more courageous than the rest. Kausalya, she told the minister, had ordered him to come straight to her palace. There Sumantra found the emperor, prostrate on the floor, in disheveled clothes, exhausted for lack of sleep and food. Sumantra mastered the surge of sorrow within him and uttered the words, "Victory, victory," which are traditionally to be pronounced first in the imperial presence, stood by shaking head to foot. Recognizing his voice, Dasharatha sat up quick and plaintively asked him, "Sumantra, where is Rama?" Sumantra clasped the emperor in his arms. The emperor clung to him as a drowning person clings to a blade of grass. Seeing them weeping with immeasurable sorrow, Kausalya was submerged in grief. She could scarcely breathe. She gasped and was pitifully suffocating with agony. The maids noticed this and lamented loudly the misfortune that had overfallen all, and they struggled to console the queen and restore her. Dasharatha pulled himself up a little. He made Sumantra sit right in front of him. "Sumantra, tell me about my Sita and Rama. Tell me all about them. How is Lakshmana? Alas, tender Sita must indeed be very tired. Where are they now? Tell me, tell me." Noting that Sumantra was not eager to reply, he shook him by the shoulders and pleaded most piteously. Sumantra was too full of shame to look the emperor in the face. He bent his looks towards the floor. With eyes streaming with tears, he could scarcely speak. Dasharatha continued his sobs. "O Rama, my breath is still lingering on in this frame, even though a son like you left me. The world has no sinner equal to me in heinousness. Sumantra, where exactly are my Sita, Rama and Lakshmana? Take me without delay to them. Do me this good turn. Fulfill this desire of mine. Without seeing them, I can't live a second longer." And like a person infatuated and desperate, he shouted in pain, "Rama, oh Rama, let me see you at least once. Won't you give me the chance to see you?" The maids outside the hall were sunk in sorrow at the emperor's plight, that they couldn't eat or sleep. "Imperial monarch, you are extremely wise. You are made in heroic mold. Your abilities are profound. Your lineage is divine. You have always served ascetics and saints. You know that as night follows day and day follows night, wealth and want, happiness and misery, nearness and separation come one after the other with a certain inevitability. Only fools are carried off their feet in joy and are dispirited and downhearted when misery comes. Learned people like you should not be affected by either. They should be full of equanimity whatever might happen. I have no credentials to advise you to face this situation courageously, for you know the need for courage very much more. O benefactor of the world, heed my prayers. Give up this grief. I will describe the details of my journey with them now. Please listen calmly." At this, Kausalya struggled to raise herself up. With the help of the maids, she leaned on them and made herself ready to listen to what Sumantra had to say. Sumantra began, "O master, the first day we journeyed up to the bank of the Tamasa. Sita, Rama and Lakshmana bathed in the river and after drinking water rested under a spreading tree. The next day we reached the Ganga river. Darkness was invading from all sides. I stopped the chariot according to Rama's command. All three bathed and rested on a stretch of sand. When dawn broke, Rama asked Lakshmana to bring him the juice of the banyan tree, and when he did so, Rama applied to his hair and matted it, so that he could wear it on the crown of his head. Meanwhile, the ruler of the Nishada tribe, a friend of Rama, brought a boat. Sita got into it first, then Rama, and then, honoring Rama's order and carrying the bow and arrows, Lakshmana. Before he sat in the boat, Lakshmana asked me to convey prostrations and homage to the parents and his prayer for blessings. He also asked me to ask you to put up with things boldly and wisely. Sumantra continued his account of what Rama had asked him to announce at Ayodhya. Master, Rama said, "Communicate my homage to the preceptor. Advise my father not to grieve over what has happened." After this, Rama called me near and directed me thus. Call together the ministers and citizens of Ayodhya and the kinsmen of the royal family and tell them of this request specially made by me. Only those among them who helped to make my father's life happy are dear to me. Rama said, "On Bharata's arrival, convey my blessings to him and direct him to accept the burden of ruling over the empire, to conserve and promote justice and integrity, and to foster the welfare of the people through means that are pure in thought, word and deed. Tell him that I want him to serve the parents so well that they forget their agony at separation from me." While Rama was engaged in commissioning me thus, Sita approached and told me to inform you that she was happily spending time with Rama, with nothing wanting. She wanted me to offer her prostrations at the feet of her father-in-law and mothers-in-law. She wanted me to tell them not to be anxious about her, to be assured that she was happy with her Lord and eagerly expecting them to bless her always. She requested me to tell them that she inquired often about their health and welfare. Meanwhile, the boatman realized that Rama did not want to delay any longer, so he started to dip the oar in the river. Soon, Rama moved off. I looked on the receding boat with my heart literally petrified. I must have spent a long time standing on the river bank. I had to return perforce to this place to carry out Rama's orders. Otherwise, I would certainly have drowned myself in the Ganga. I had become so desperate. I had to continue my life just for this purpose, to convey Rama's message to you. This Ayodhya, which has no Rama in it, appears to me forlorn and fearful as a forest. Listening to Sumantra's words and the soft, sweet messages from Rama and Sita, Dasharatha couldn't restrain his anguish. He couldn't forget all that had happened and he fell in a faint. The emperor's breath was suffocated, like a fish that struggled to wriggle out of the dense slush into which it has fallen. Seeing his plight, the queens burst into heart-rending wails. Words cannot describe that moment of desperate distress. Seeing their sorrow, even sorrow could not restrain its own sorrow. The agony of the queens, the agony of the emperor, the agony of the maids of the palace spread confusion and consternation over the entire city. The residents of the capital scattered in terror, just like birds of the forest frightened at midnight by a sudden thunderbolt. Like a lotus stalk that plucked and thrown out of the water fades fast, the emperor was fast leaving the body. Words couldn't emerge from his throat, and his tongue became dry. The senses turned dull and ineffective. Kausalya watched the emperor and noted that the sun of the solar dynasty was setting. She muttered courage and, stepping near, placed her lord's head on her lap and tried to make him listen to a few words of consolation and comfort. She said, "Lord, Sita, Rama and Lakshmana will arrive soon and see you. Hear me, take courage and strengthen yourself." When she prayed so compassionately into his ear, he opened his eyes and muttered audibly, "Kausalya, where is Rama? Show me where is Rama. Take me to him. Alas, my sweet and tender daughter-in-law isn't here. And Lakshmana, where is he? I don't see him." Dasharatha bent his head, unable to hold it up anymore. The burden of grief was so heavy. A few minutes later, the emperor remembered the curse pronounced on him by the blind hermit, Ravana's father. He sat up with a struggle and began telling Kausalya in feeble accents the story of that curse. Kausalya, on one occasion, I had gone into the forest on a hunting expedition. A large number of soldiers and huntsmen followed me there. We couldn't find a wild animal the whole day, but I felt that I shouldn't return to the capital empty-handed, with nothing bagged. We entered the forest in the night and waited and watched for some luck. The dawn was about to break the darkness around us on the brink of a vast lake, when something moved on the edge of the water. I could also hear the sound of the movement. I inferred that it was a big beast of the jungle, and since I could shoot an arrow straight at the sound and effect a kill, I drew my bow and let go the sharp, sure arrow. It flew fast and furious and hit that animal already on the move. Suddenly, I heard the cry of pain emanating from the place where it fell. I ran forward with the soldiers and lo, I found it was not a beast I had hit, but the young son of a hermit. I ran forward with the soldiers and lo, I found it was not a beast I had hit, but the son of a young hermit. I bent by his side and prayed for his pardon for the tragic error. He told me, "Emperor, don't grieve. Fulfill my request, which I will presently tell you, and that will be enough requital for the sin you have perpetrated. My name is Ravana. My father and mother are both blind. I was spending the days of my life serving them both. That service was granting me all the happiness I needed. I was blessed with even the highest knowledge, the realization of the reality. They are now suffering from excruciating thirst. I came here to this lake to take some water to them. You shot me, imagining me to be an animal of the forest. Who can avoid the decrees of destiny? In my present condition, I can no longer walk with this water to my parents. Therefore, take this vessel of water to them, go in the northerly direction until you come to a lonely thatched hut. After they have slaked their thirst, describe what happened to me here. Don't tell them anything about me before they slake their thirst." Saying this, he placed the vessel in my hands and passed away. Kausalya, oh, how pathetically anxious he was for his parents. He never worried about his life, which was fast ebbing away. He didn't speak a harsh word to me. Those soft, sweet, loving words he uttered are still echoing in my ears. With his last breath, he repeated the sacred sound Pranava, Om, clearly 3 times. Seeing him and his calm, courageous death, I decided to make amends for my sin by fulfilling his last desire. I hurried to the hut he had mentioned and gave the vessel into their hands without uttering a single word. But those parents started asking questions. They asked, "Son, why did you take so much time? Why this delay?" They moved their hands forward and waved them about so that they might touch him and feel his presence before them. I stepped back a little. The aged couple wailed, "Son, why aren't you speaking to us today? We won't drink the water you brought unless you talk to us and answer our queries." I had decided the soldiers to bring Ravana's body to the parents' hut, and they arrived at this time with the corpse. I placed the body within the reach of the mother. She wept most pathetically over the body. I could not look on. Sometime later, the mother established some little mastery over her grief and told me, "Emperor, there is no use extending our lives hereafter, since our son has left us. We have grown old, and who will serve us and foster us? Kill us too, as you killed him, or else erect a pyre so that we can immolate ourselves with our son." I bowed my head and accepted their command. I heaped dry wood and piled up a fire. The son's corpse was placed on it. They sat on it, and by sheer exercise of their yogic power, they created fire in themselves and burned themselves. Before they immolated themselves, they addressed me and spoke a few words. Their holy curse is proving true today. At this point, Dasharatha stopped some time in order to take rest and to compose his agitation. Kausalya pacified him, giving him consolation and mental calm. "Lord, what did the parents say? Tell me, I am anxious to hear." Dasharatha stayed silent for a while and replied, "Kausalya, what can I say? How can I repeat those words? Those old people, the aged couple, spoke thus: 'You will end your life, as we are doing now, out of unbearable agony at separation from our son.' Then they breathed their last amidst the rising flames. At that point, I had no son, and I wondered how their curse would affect me. How could their word come true? But I also thought that being the words of an aged sage, they had to come true. That meant I must have sons so that I could be separated from them. You know how sad we are, for we had no sons then. I felt that the curse might prove a blessing. I prayed it might come true so that, even though I may have to be separated from them, I would have sons. I couldn't tell you this secret till now. Now I understand that the words of that holy hermit represented genuine truth. The agony of separation from Rama is bringing about my end. I have recalled to memory the tragedy of Ravana. My courage is spent. I can't muster it anymore." Dasharatha was lost in contemplation of the incidents of the past. "Rama, Rama, oh Rama!" he cried and leaned back on Kausalya, who noticed the change that had come over him and screamed. The attendants and maids gathered around. They found that the emperor had drawn his last breath. The city was turned into a vale of tears, a seething pool of grief. Crowds surged into the palace. The streets became fast-moving torrents of weeping humanity. People cast curses on Keikei, for they felt that the city had lost its eyes as a result of her machinations. End of Chapter 16, Part 1. Sai Ram.